Wait, is this soft water or hard water? I can't drink hard water. I sent an email about it. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor and I'll be your host as we go through all the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. There's a link to that in the description below, and it'll give you an idea of what we usually do with the Horror Movie Syllabus, which is take a look at a particular subgenre of horror and then pick 3 movies from that subgenre to explore. But this is our Is It Syllabus-Worthy series, where I take a recommendation from you guys and watch it for the first time and then let you know whether or not I think it's worthy of being on the syllabus. This has been a fun series for me, as you guys have been giving really great recommendations by and large in the comments below for the videos, and I've been making a list of them, and that list is available on horrormoviesyllabus.com. You can see everything that's on there already, and I'm going through the list kind of randomly, picking movies at random to watch, and then let you guys know what I think of them, and that's what this series is all about. Today's movie, as you probably already know from the thumbnail, is One Cut of the Dead, which was recommended by The Sweetest Sadist, which is one of the more fun screen names that I've seen in the comments for sure. And Sweetest Sadist recommended this in our J-horror video, which gives you a tip, that it's a Japanese film. But that's what I knew about this movie going in. It's a Japanese movie about zombies, and that it was really, really well received. That was all I knew about this movie before going into it. And it's interesting or serendipitous, the timing of this, because if you watch Movie Timelines, and if you don't, why not? Josh over at Movie Timelines does his Dead Last series, where he picks a group of movies and then he has everybody rank them, from best to dead last. And I'm one of the people who gets to rank those. And the upcoming list that is going to be done has One Cut of the Dead on it, which I hadn't seen. So this is a 2-for-1 for me. I'm watching it for this review, and I'm also watching it for Josh's channel, so I'm getting double my money for this one. But here's the thing. This movie is something that I was already hoping to get to because of how well received it was, how much positive buzz there was. Now, I have been really dragging my heels and seeing a lot of the new horror lately because I'm so busy rewatching stuff for the channel that it's been hard to see everything new that comes out. And so I'm behind, and that's why I haven't gotten around to this one. So I'm happy to finally get the opportunity to check this one off my list. So thank you to Sweetest Sadist for recommending it. And you'll do what I usually do on these videos, where I'll, kind of give a little quick review of the movie, tell you what I liked about it, tell you what I didn't like about it, and then we'll talk about whether or not I think it's worthy of being on the syllabus. So let's go ahead and start that movie review right now. As you know, we're talking about One Cut of the Dead. And One Cut of the Dead came out in 2017 and has been something of a horror movie sensation, if not a full-on blockbuster. Horror fans are aware of this movie. This movie is quickly gaining a cult following worldwide, not just here in America, because again, it's a Japanese movie, and it really has kind of captured the hearts and imaginations of people who have seen it. I have yet to see people speak poorly of it. It's really that popular. If you haven't seen it before, the movie is about a Japanese film crew that are making a zombie movie in an abandoned facility that used to have World War II experiments being done in it. And then during their film shoot, the actual zombies attack and wreak havoc on the film set. And things start to go awry. And then things get interesting after that. But we're going to stop there so as to not spoil a movie for you. But I'm going to be honest. It's a little hard to talk too much about what makes this movie good without spoiling it too much. One thing I'm going to say about it up front is that the movie has these severe changes in tone. And I say this as a positive thing. This works really well for the movie. The movie starts out as one thing, switches to something else, and then switches to something else again. There's basically 3 major stories kind of going on in this movie that all connect and all make sense, but a drastic change in tone. In a way, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Korean cinema, how Korean cinema will weave multiple genres together to make something that's wholly unique in Korean. This is kind of like that, except that they don't feel like they're weaved together. It feels like it just changes. And unlike Korean movies where it feels like when there's a tonal shift that you don't really feel, in this movie, you feel it. You feel the shift in tone quite dramatically, but that's on purpose, and it works really, really well. Now, like I said, there's three pieces to this movie, a beginning, a middle, and an end. We'll call it that way. And I'd say the middle part drags a little bit. The opening is so heart rate inducing and thrilling, and then the ending is so satisfying and pays off so well. The middle feels, by comparison, to be where there's a lull, but it's also an important lull because it's setting up a lot of the third act. And so that's one of the things about the movie that you kind of just have to get through a little bit, is that middle section might feel a little bit of a drag. And for me, it was bad enough that I was really questioning the movie at that point. The movie has a lot of praise, a lot of praise, and I didn't know so much about the tonal shifts, but I deduced that that was part of what people were raving about. And I was kind of wanting to turn on the movie a little bit there. I was really kind of like, this shift isn't working for me. It's not as clever as it thinks it is, and it really wasn't. It slowed down too much, and I wasn't into it. I was not. I was ready to call the movie overrated. I was dead set to come out on here and say, sorry guys, I don't feel this movie. But then the third act hits, and the third act makes that second act pay off, and it recontextualizes everything you've seen before, including the first act. The first act is a lot of fun, but when you're watching it, you can see the flaws. It's basically a zombie movie, right? And you're seeing, but it's also a found footage movie. In fact, one thing that's probably not that big of a spoiler is that the first part of this movie is one long take, and that's part of the title of the movie. One cut of the dead. There's one cut. Like the movie, it starts out with like a 30-minute take of a zombie attack, and it's absolutely fantastic from a technical standpoint. Really impressive, but we'll get into that in a minute. It has its flaws though. It has some parts where there's some weird things that happen, or characters say or do weird things, and it all winds up paying off. The nitpicks that I had for this movie coming in paid off wonderfully. I had my arms crossed watching this movie. It happens whenever there's a movie that gets such high praise. I can't help but cross my arms a little bit when I'm watching. I'm expecting it to not be as good as everybody says because it's just been built up too much. And that's why I felt the first two-thirds of this movie really was that this was going to be overrated, but it's not. It pays off. It pays off really, really well. And the tonal shifts are really great because it starts out with a kind of a schlocky zombie movie, and it switches. You get comedy in there, you get drama in there. It really is much more than you're expecting it to be. And I think it's okay to know that much going in, but it's hard to not say more without spoiling it too much for you. The movie is just really, really well made. And it's interesting to point out this movie is made on a budget. This movie was made for, I think, 25 grand American or something like that. It's using mostly unknown actors or completely unknown actors. They shot it in like 8 days. That one take that I told you about at the beginning of the movie, it took them like 6 tries to do that. They really did an amazing job making this movie, just using ingenuity and cleverness and just really, and just talent, just pouring their talent in our blood, sweat, and tears. And it looks as good as any like high budget zombie movie. It looks great. It moves really well. Even though that middle drags, like I said, in retrospect, it didn't drag. It was just setting up more drama that you didn't realize was in this movie. You didn't realize this movie was going to have drama in it, and it does. And it does a wonderful job of explaining all of those things that, their budget probably didn't let them do certain things. And then you can feel that early on. You feel like there's certain things happening off screen because they don't have the budget to show it on screen. They don't have the ability to do some of the effects and stuff on screen. But in the end, all of that pays off in such a satisfying way that I can't help but just be really impressed and just tickled by it. It's just wonderful. The movie feels very original. It's not necessarily the first time that this has been done before. It's kind of amalgamation of other things, long takes, found footage, working in drama into a zombie movie. Zombie comedies. These are all things that have been done before, but putting all this together in this way and presenting it in this fashion felt fresh. And that's important when we're watching a zombie movie, because as I've talked about when we talked about the zombie subgenre, it's a little played out, man. I'm a little burned out on it. We've seen a lot of them. There's been just a glut of zombie movies. So it's hard to stand apart. It's hard to feel fresh and have something feel like a new take on something and give it that kind of life and energy, this movie succeeds. I think a lot of the credit goes to the cast and crew. I think, again, blood, sweat, and tears. They poured their hearts and souls into making this movie, and it comes out on screen. It translates. You feel the infectious nature of their joy of filmmaking uh, through this movie. It really shines through and makes it feel energetic and fascinating and exciting in a subgenre that doesn't feel that way a lot of the time these days. So feels very fresh, feels very original. Now they apparently have made some sequels to that. I haven't checked those out yet, and I'm not really eager to do so because it feels a little bit like they're going to the well a little bit too much. This whole feels like a fresh original idea, and then to go back to it, presumably because it's been popular and it's made a lot of money, feels more like a cash grab, doesn't feel like it's going to have the same heart and energy and love that the original has. So I'm reluctant to watch those and see it diminish the original. So I'll probably get to them eventually, but I didn't do it in time for this review, and I'm not feeling bad about that because I don't think they're going to be that impressive. So if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below if you've seen the sequels or spin-offs or whatever. Let me know if they are worth the time, but I'm suspecting they're not. But the original one really has something like lightning in a bottle too about it. Like it just like they captured something really sharp and fun and energetic, and it works. It works really, really, really well. As you can see, I've drank the Kool Aid on this one. I understand why everybody's so hyped about it, but that hype, that excitement, my enthusiasm, does that mean that it's syllabus worthy? Let's find out. So, is One Cut of the Dead syllabus worthy? Hell yes! This movie is fantastic. And I'm telling you right now, I went in looking askance at it. I was ready to poo poo on this and tell you that it's overrated and that people oversold it. I'm not afraid to say those kind of things. And I really thought it was going to go that way. Early on, I was like, hey, there's some technically fun things in here. This one shot is great. There's some fun things they're doing. They're making a lot of weird choices that I'm not really feeling right now. And then when the first tonal shift happened, I was like, okay, I see what you did there. Maybe it's kind of clever to the average person, but to an old horror hound like me, I'm not terribly impressed. But then when we got to the end, it won me over. It won me over. I was having such a good time. I saw the entire movie in an entirely different light. It made me want to go back and rewatch it immediately. That's the sign of a great movie. Every bit of praise that I've read or heard about this movie, it's correct. It definitely would have made the syllabus had I seen it before I did the syllabus. And where would I put it now? Well, that's another interesting thing is because of those tonal shifts, because of how much is going on in this movie that I don't want to spoil for you, I could probably squeeze it into any number of subgenres. I could put it in the zombie subgenre for obvious reasons. I could maybe put it into the J horror, even though J horror usually describes something a little bit different than a zombie movie. I could make a case for it. I could have put it into horror comedy, found footage. Easily could have gone into found footage, although that's a competitive subgenre. Dysfunctional family. There's a case to be made that it could go into the dysfunctional family subgenre. The point being, there's a lot of different subgenres it could go into. And it definitely deserves it because it definitely deserves to be discussed. And then there's a part of me that's kind of glad that we're discussing it this way, that it was a recommendation from you guys that allowed me to talk about because I can devote a little bit more time to it. The drawback being, I don't want to talk about it too much so as to preserve as much as possible what this movie is really about and what happens in it because the less you know about it, the better. I've told you more than I probably should have, although I don't think I've really spoiled anything for you on it. From what I've gathered after watching it, doing some of the research on it, it sounds like some of these details have kind of permeated into the collective horror consciousness. It's kind of become known information. Just everybody just kind of knows this stuff. But it hasn't been totally spoiled, at least not from what I can tell. So if you haven't seen it yet, by all means, check it out right away before it gets spoiled for you. Even if you don't like zombie movies, even if you don't like gore, even if you don't like foreign films, I would still implore you to check this one out because it really is something that, again, maybe it isn't totally unique and original, but it feels like it is. It feels very fresh and exciting and new. And I just want to champion that because People complain too much we're getting all the sequels and derivative stuff, and there's not enough original stuff out there. So when something does come out that's new and original, we should support it. And so I want to support this movie. It really lives up to the hype, and I could not be happier about that. So thank you, Sweetest Status, for recommending it. Thank you, Josh, for putting it onto the Dead Last, where you guys will you watch his video and you'll see more about it, I'm sure. And just check it out. Check it out before it gets spoiled, because it's definitely worth your time. So that's the time we have for that. But now it is time for another horror trivia pursuit question. And I'm going to look at a card like I always do, horror trivia pursuit card, and answer a question with the camera rolling, so I don't cheat. And this time we're going to look at the monster subgenre, because we're talking about a zombie movie. So let's talk about a monster category on the card, not a subgenre, monster category on the card. And our question today is, in the opening scene of 2007's 28 Weeks Later, who does Don desert to save himself? His wife, his son, his daughter, or his dog? Now, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, and I'm so confident in it that I feel like maybe I'm wrong. I'm starting to second guess myself on this, because I read this question and I'm like, oh, I know the answer to this one. It's easy, but now I'm having second thoughts about that. And this happens a lot sometimes when you get like a multiple choice question. You think you know the answer immediately, and then you start having doubts. Yeah, this was my problem in school when I would take tests. Multiple choice, I'd talk myself out of the right answer. I'd know the right answer, and then I'd talk myself out of it. I was like, well, you can make a case for this, you can make a case for that, and so I kind of don't want to do that here. I think I'm going to stick to my original answer. So the options are wife, son, daughter, or dog. Now, the funny thing about this is the way that this question is worded throws me off a little bit, because my answer would have been different from every word that's on this question. And it's I'm prattling on to give you guys some time to think about it, but we don't really need to think about too much. Just 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. But I'll just tell you, my answer would have been his family. He would have deserted his family to save himself. I would have said family. And I didn't realize that they were going to specify which part of his family. And yes, the dog is part of the family. I just put that out there right now. So without that, I'm going to say his wife. That's my answer. Hopefully, you've got your answer locked in. I'm going to say wife, because that would have been, like I said, my gut reaction was family, and the first thing I would have thought it was wife. But now I'm second guessing that. But I'm going to stop second guessing, stick with wife. You've got your answer. Let's read what the answer is in the card. The answer is his wife. Okay, so I'm glad I didn't second guess myself on that one. I started having second thoughts on it. I was like, wait, it's not his daughter, is it? It's his wife. It's wife. I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later in a while. We did talk about it recently, but I didn't revisit it for the video, so I revisited the original. And so I was doubting myself a little bit there, but this is why you stick with your original thought. You guys know best when you know first. There's some test taking advice for those of you that are still in school. Anyways, I hope you guys got that right. And if you didn't, let me know what you got wrong, but it's a multiple choice. It's not as funny. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, if you've seen One Cut of the Dead, you've enjoyed that. If you didn't, let us know in the comments below, because I'd love to hear the counterpoint, because I have not heard that before. Don't spoil it for anybody, though, please. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. And then check out next week's video when we get to it. But until then, class dismissed.